June 17th meeting of the Waterbury Development Review Board. My name is Alex Tolstoy. I am the vice chair, but acting chair tonight. We are a five-person, we have 5 members of a 7-member board today. If approval needs 4 votes in the affirmative, if at any point the applicant wishes to continue the hearing to a future date when more members may be present, they may request a continuance at any time before the closing of the hearing. At this point, I'll ask the members of the board to introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Brooks Fortune, a member of the board.
David Rogers, member DRB.
Bud Wilson.
And Harry Shepard.
And Cheryl Casey, zoning administrator.
This meeting is recorded and the recording becomes part of the record. We just have one applicant tonight, so just to go through how the meeting will work, we'll ask the applicant to introduce themselves and have the applicant, and consultants introduce themselves, and if there are any members of the public wish to speak on the application, they'll also have to introduce themselves. We'll swear them in. The applicant will present the case. We'll ask questions. Any members of the public will then offer their input or questions, and then we will decide if we wish to vote on the application or if we wish to go into a deliberative session and close the open meeting and vote in deliberative session. So at this point, I'll ask the applicant to come forward. Front?
Yeah, right there.
Please. Hot seat.
Hi everyone, my name is Doug Osborne. I'm an engineer with SLR. We've been contracted with the town and the utility district to work on this project.
Sorry, I'm just before you get into it, I'm just asking you to swear in.
Sure.
And if there are any members of the public that wish to comment, I'll ask them to swear in too.
Or anybody online,
Is there-
one person?
Matt, Warren, if you wish to speak at any point, I'll just ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to this board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Can we confirm that we have the abutter notifications?
Yes, we do. They are in your packet.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. So I'm happy to give some background, to walk through the plans, whatever's most helpful. This is a project just off of Stowe Street to orient ourselves as we move down Stowe Street just before the highway overpass. Thatcher Brook is down to your left. And the purpose of this project has been to stabilize the river where it's threatening the sewer main. Sewer main, I don't know if you can get the plans up, but I can kind of orient. I'm going to talk through it.
The one that doesn't work?
I do have big plans.
No, I was talking about the sewer.
Okay, so zoom way in.
It's the area.
So this has been an area with ongoing issues with bank erosion and the river cutting down where there are 2 sewer main crossings, and they're both encased in concrete, but they've both become exposed over time due to sediment being eroded around them.
I'm sorry, to what?
The sewer crosses.
Oh, the sewer crossings.
The sewer crossings.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the goal of our project here is to create a lasting design that will better protect those sewer crossings and where the sewer runs along Thatcher Brook in this stretch, just across from Stowe Street. helpful to run through the plans, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Why don't you just kind of go from like stage one all the way to kind of completion? I think we
Sure.
roughly understand the need for it.
Yeah.
Just kind of go through what you plan to do.
Okay. Sure, so again, just to orient, this is our existing conditions plan. So Stowe Street is running kind of across the page, and then Thatcher Brook runs right along Stowe Street. You can see the steep slope there. And you can see this spot as you're driving along Stowe Street, heading up towards the highway overpass. That's just off the page to the right. And is it okay if I get up there and point?
Sure.
Sure.
Easier.
You want to use
Try
this?
this. I'll use my pen. And so our focus here is this sewer main that comes along Stowe Street, serving many of the homes and businesses to the north. Comes down and it crosses Thatcher Brook here, and it runs along Thatcher Brook, and then it crosses again. And so these have been two vulnerable locations, which, as I said, they're both encased in concrete, but that concrete over time has become exposed. Just creating a vulnerable situation that if that erosion continued, the sewer main could be at risk from damage during flood events. And in addition, this slope, folks are familiar, is really steep, and there's been a lot of erosion issues. The town has gone in many times and armored parts of that slope. And so we came in and we did analysis. We created a hydraulic river model to look at the velocities and the flood elevations to understand the setting and how we could possibly decrease the risk to the sewer here. And so Cheryl, if you could go to the next page. So now we're looking at our proposed conditions. And so there's a few key elements of the project here. The first thing is this hatch that extends from the upstream bend, kind of along the straightaway, and then around the bend downstream. That's what we call a flood bench. And so that's an area where it ranges from about 20 to 50 feet wide next to the river. That would be lowered. This is a spot where, because of the down cutting in the river, the banks are really high. And so the kind of routine flooding that you would expect to start to get out into the floodplains isn't able to in this location, because it's just become a kind of a steep, narrow trough. And so by creating that flood bench adjacent to the river, it's a spot where when we have our routine flooding, a lot of the times when we start getting those high erosive velocities, water would spill out of the channel onto that flood bench and allow those floodwaters to start slowing down rather than just staying in the narrow channel through this stretch. You can really see, on the upstream end, the channel is almost 50 feet wide, and then as it comes through here, it narrows down to as narrow as 25 feet in this bend. So you're really going from this situation where you have a wide channel that's actually pretty well connected to the floodplains to where it really narrows down, which really increases the velocities. And so the second component is right around this bend is where it's at its narrowest. And so we're proposing to widen out the channel. So the channel would go from about 25 feet to about 40 feet wide is about the space we have, in addition to that flood bench on the side there. And then in that location, as I said, the sewer main is currently encased in concrete, but because we would be widening the channel, we would extend that encasement from where it ends all the way to the manhole that's right here. And then the two other pieces, along with the flood bench, we have this hatch at the back of the flood bench here is a boulder revetment, and that would be a slope that would actually be trenched in to bottom out 3 feet below the channel bottom in order to prevent potential flooding or movement of the channel from threatening the sewer and the two sewer manholes that are on this side of the river. And so that extends along the bend and then to this downstream corner where you're getting beyond where the sewer infrastructure is. And then the final component here are these four kind of triangle arch looking objects, which are riffle grade control structures, we call them. And so what these are is, it's an actual kind of structure of boulders that would be built in the river. And there's kind of these two arches that get built into each other. And there would be, they'll actually excavate down and place what we call foundation stones, which would be large, about 2-foot diameter stones. And then they would build a second layer of stones of the same size on top of those, and then fill it in with cobble and other gravel, river sediment to match the adjacent river. And so they would then kind of be these bumps in the river profile. And the purpose of that is, because we've seen this down cutting where, if you actually go out there, you can see the water's just flowing over those encased sewers. That would help hold back water, and over time it would slow down and allow sediment to settle out, and would actually help build back the riverbed over time, rather than going in and actually trying to fill the whole riverbed to bring it up. It would be more of a natural process by putting those in there. So those are the major components. We can look at the construction sequencing, or if there's questions there so far.
I would say, unless anybody has anything pressing, let's just go through the whole process.
Okay. So I think the other key thing to just talk about is the actual construction. So the plan is to come off of Armory Drive and through the Armory parking lot down the existing gravel maintenance road that the town has. And then these access routes are all existing. They're improved. There's quite a bit of gravel in a lot of the spots. It's a pretty firm road. So the contractor wouldn't be building any new access down through here, and they're already cleared of, there's no trees or anything there. And then once they come to the river, they will have space to drive around, and there's a spot shown for stockpiling and staging there. And generally, we have a sequence recommended, but whoever the contractor ends up being, when they're chosen, they can follow that or propose their own for us and the town to approve. And then generally, the flood bench is about 3,000. It's about 2,800 cubic yards of material that will be trucked out and disposed of in an approved location. And then the other materials for the boulder revetment and the riffle grade control structures will be brought in, and staged and constructed and placed there. So we have some other cross sections, profile and details that we can get into, or
I did have one question.
yes.
I noticed on the plans at the end of that project, you're putting up a riprap net or something across the
Yep.
river. Where's that going?
So that will be, I think it's on the construction page. So yeah, this shape, we call it a riprap filter berm. And so one of the first things the contractor will do when they get in here is they'll install, there's a detail of it later in the plans, but it's essentially the larger riprap cobble material that would stretch across the flow area. And the purpose of that is, as they're constructing, there inevitably will be some sediment moving downstream, and that will create kind of a settling pool that some of that sediment will settle out in, and then they'll periodically be able to dig out that sediment that settles behind it.
So that's going to be built with like natural materials, rocks, gravel.
Well, that will probably be something they bring in.
Okay.
And like more of an angular riprap, but then it'll be removed.
Removed after the project,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
That's the only question I had on that. Thank you.
I guess we'll go in order now and ask questions.
Sure.
Harry, do you want to start?
My compliments to EFUD and the town for being proactive in trying to manage a condition with the collection and sewer system. It's important to do this kind of thing. So, in general, I'm very supportive of what they're trying to do. It's a problem, they're trying to solve it. And one caution on it all is it's a very big project. This is not a, week or two kind of effort. I think I heard you say the flood bench is 2,800 yards, did I hear that right?
Yep, that's right.
So roughly 200 trucks. Does that include the cut for the revetment?
That doesn't, that's an additional.
That's an additional significant cut out. And then also rock in. This is a big earthwork project. I see the proposal of coming off of the parking lot on the Waterbury property. All those trucks are through that parking lot and up and down Waterbury Lane, and that's, so has the, kind of the scope of this thing been reviewed with the state and buy-in for what we're really asking here? Cool.
It has, we've received our stream alteration permit from
Okay, how about the Armory folks operating the shelter then?
Yeah, that, I would have to leave that, Bill Woodruff and Tuscany have been our town contacts working on those logistics.
And they were included in the list of abutters, so they are aware of this hearing.
Sorry, the state or whoever's managing the
Yeah, it's
armory?
buildings and...
BGS.
Whose property is all this work on?
It's on Agency of Transportation, and the abutting state property where the Armory building is actually the Department of Military owns it.
That's all that land in white on that side of the river is all owned by the state or the military.
Yeah, here I've
This is
got...
all Agency of Transportation land,
Okay.
where all the work is happening.
Okay.
But then the access.
Yep.
That go away.
Who's the contact for the, is it just the Armory, or has Lamoille, what's the name of that group?
Lamoille Housing.
Yeah, Lamoille Community Housing, have they been contacted? Because, the people who live there are not going to have space to, to even think about what that might mean. Not to say that, there's a problem, but to just make sure that Lamoille County Housing or whatever that organization can prep those people and keep their mental health safe with all that stuff going on. Yeah. So that's something maybe Bill needs to finesse, is that what I'm hearing?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
as the applicant, Agency of Transportation, Town of Waterbury, EFUD, Public Works, as the applicants, that is probably, that's going to be on their shoulders. The property owners have been notified. Property owners who then rent out to other entities.
Right.
Becomes
I'm just thinking
different.
about the
Yeah.
children that are there
Yeah.
and heavy trucks, and that could be really cool for some of them.
Yeah.
But it can also present some dangers and some awareness on everybody's part.
Eric, any questions?
No, I think that's the one bigger aspect of concern that got to think through, because it's like 600 loads in and out before the dust settles over. So,
The contractor will be required to restore in the pre-construction condition as part of the plans and the bid documents.
All the way to, what was that, Union Street? Is that what?
Well, currently from the entrance off the parking lot, we had our pre-bid meeting last week, and that question did come up, and Bill is going to have some discussions about the pavement,
Yeah, I mean, 600.
and it's already in pretty rough condition.
Yeah, it is.
But
Yeah, is there a time frame that's been sets for how long this is going to take?
We estimate it'll take 1 to 2 months. The window is expected to be August 1st to October 1st, which is certainly enough time for it to occur. It is a relatively hard deadline, especially for the in-stream work.
Seems like-
Has to be finished by October 1st, as mandated by our stream alteration permit. So it'll be ramping up at the beginning of August and done by October 1st.
And the gravel drive network, that's already existing?
It is.
Something you're going to improve upon? Or?
It shouldn't need significant
Okay, great.
improving for, you can currently drive down it in a passenger car.
Then the other question, I mean, it really doesn't matter, but I saw in here your budget was 300,000, and I'm thinking, really? On the permit.
In terms of,
Cost of the project.
that is our estimate. We haven't received the bids yet. But that's our estimate for what will come in. And it's FEMA funded project, managed by the Vermont Emergency Management.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I've done work up at the gristmill, so I applaud you because it's pretty impressive when we get those strong rains.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. Good luck. That's all I have.
Monica?
I said, no, please.
Jake?
Nope, that was it.
Our review here is surprisingly limited, in my view. There's one section, section 604B. All substantial improvements within this district shall be designed, maintained, and modified to prevent flotation, collapse, release, or lateral movement of any structures pertaining to the project. In your professional opinion, is that the case as to this proposal?
Where is that again?
Section 604B.
Number 6 under guiding ordinances.
Just
Present
the
flotation, collapse, release, or? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the project will use methods and practices that minimize flood damage. Of course, that's the whole point, right?
That's right.
And then produce adequate drainage to reduce exposure to flood hazards. Is that the case? Is it?
Yes.
Be designed to minimize or eliminate infiltration of floodwaters and water supply and sewer systems. Is that true of this project?
Yep.
In my view, then that's that. So I have nothing further.
Just want to confirm there's going to be no interruption to the septic service.
That's
going
right.
through.
That's right.
How far upstream did you kind of look at the implications of this work? I mean, and if a flood were to happen while you're doing this, you know, what other kind of steps other than, I guess, that one riprap net mesh? You know, there are other things. I guess that's two questions.
Yeah.
So, one, how far upstream did you kind of look at the implications of this work? Like, will it flood more upstream or
No. Flood, the 100-year flood level will not increase. I've done the modeling to show. We've actually had correspondence with one of the state floodplain managers who's reviewed and figured In terms of how far upstream, our model extends about to the highway overpass, which shows that there's no impact. Our model shows all that basically like the flood does not increase or decrease beyond that point.
So sorry, those houses that are kind of below the old mill, that are kind of on this plane that we're talking about,
Right.
there will be no impact to those houses.
That's right.
And then kind of part two question is, if there was a flood during
Yeah.
construction,
Mm-hmm.
would there be any implications to people upstream or downstream?
No, I mean, there wouldn't be any increased risk to homes upstream or downstream. The contractor will have to be prepared, if you have notes about if heavy rains or flooding is expected, and buttoning down the site and making sure equipment's well away from floodplains and that sort of thing. But in terms of adjacent neighbors or infrastructure, it would be increased risk.
And then dump site, I'm just kind of thinking like August to October, it's a pretty busy time in Waterbury. 600 trucks, in and out down through Union Street. I mean, 300 trucks in and out through Union Street. Are we kind of thinking like they're going south towards Montpelier, or are we thinking they're going up to the highway? Well, I'm just trying to envision like the traffic that is flowing.
We don't have a fill site currently. We've left it up to the bidders to provide their fill site. That'll then require approval. But it'll come in waves. As they take a bit of time to set up, and then they'll probably be trucking in their materials and stockpiling, and then once they're moving on the flood bench, there'll be probably a week there of trucks moving out. Depending on the contractor, they can move all that material for the flood bench in 3 days. And so it won't be like a prolonged, weeks and weeks of trucking.
Okay. And then just my final question, what are we kind of, I know that it's in the plans, but just kind of, what's it going to look like when it's all done? I mean, not so much the river, but the bank and the construction site.
So it'll be replanted. We have restoration notes and a seed mix called out. The boulder revetment itself will all be covered with topsoil and seeded and mulched. And it'll actually be, we have what we call live stakes shown, which are typically a willow or dogwood that are planted into the boulder revetment that kind of just help lock everything together and start creating more vegetation. So when it's immediately finished, it'll all be seeded and mulched, and you'll be able to see the top course of the grade control structures. But within a growing season, the flood bench will be all vegetated. Trees will start coming up on the boulder revetment, and it'll look pretty natural pretty quickly. We find these settings.
Alex, just to add to the initial question you asked, the River Corridor and Floodplain Manager also reviewed the application and reported that the project represents a net decrease in fill, does not increase flood elevations or velocities, and her conclusion was that the project does not adversely affect public safety, and it is not in violation of any NFIP criteria. So
Thank you.
that is her feedback.
Harry, did you have-
You mentioned when you were talking, introducing us to oriented things, there's a pretty steep slope right there up against Stowe Street. I see that you're not really proposing any armoring of that. Is that, if you're going to be doing digs right under it for some of your work here, right?
Well, it'll be, right, a lot of it is armored. And then there's sections where there's bedrock showing on the bank. And that side of those structures will just tie into the existing And our modeling shows that the velocities will decrease during flood events because of those structures and the flood benching and the widening.
All right, open up to public questions. Any other comments from the board?
Not for me.
Members of the public, come on up. Please introduce yourselves. And I'll-
Up there so I can point.
Sure, and I'll just ask that you direct your questions to the board.
Absolutely. Meeting that.
You have already sworn in.
I'm Jeremy Garrett, so I live at 60. Hi, Eric. It's been a while. I live at 65 Stowe Street for 25 years, so we're literally right here. Yeah, there definitely needs to be something to kind of slow the, like, if there's any rain at all, I mean, there's just a flood coming down from the north side of the school. There's just a flood that just comes down the roadway. And a lot of it comes into my basement. So anything we can kind of do to mitigate some of those things would be great. The other thing, and you mentioned this, Harry, right there has been a pernicious little cutout of the road. So I guess my question would be, how does that impact that? Because we're obviously, concerned about erosion, and then people have to close the street down to fix all that. So we don't want one side to kind of, get better and the other side to kind of get worse, I guess. But hearing that all of the traffic would come here, that's awesome, because when they were fixing all of this, they were basically just kind of parked right in front of my house and our neighbors' houses. So that's good to hear. Any more questions?
No, that was my main question, concerns about instability in Stowe Street.
Yeah.
The part that there's a cliff right close to the river, overlooking National Gardens, just south of Hillcrest Terrace. So I guess that would be my main concern because of that erosion that's been happening in the past on the road. I don't know how stable it is underneath.
So it sounds like you're happy with what's going to be happening on the other side of the river.
Yeah, I'm glad all the construction will take place on the other side of the river. But what I'm hopeful is that it sounds like you're going to have to cut out a lot of stuff and pull out a lot of stuff. So I don't want to see this to get even further eroded right there, and then even right there where there's sewage lines going, or we've got a culvert that goes across the street there.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to make sure that that doesn't get impacted.
No, I understand. I'm on High Street. I drive there all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think those drop inlets have ever really worked. They're
Right.
not sized properly. I see exactly what you're talking about. There's usually a huge buildup of water right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think part of the problem is that when they put that in, it wasn't really done properly. Nothing banks the right way,
Yeah.
as far as I could see.
Okay.
The other question that just come up is, this seems to be creating, that whole area seems to be creating some issues with people coming up and through. And I guess as far as there's going to be quite a bit of equipment there and such, I wonder if there's going to be any lighting at night there or something, security stuff that we should know about that could affect the neighbors.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a good question. I'd rather not have bright lights shining at us on it for
I know.
months.
The ones at the school would bat it up.
Right, right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on up and maybe answer? So a concern that I've heard, and I think I'd like an answer to, is that culvert that does come out, I always forget the name of that road that goes up to the school.
Hillcrest.
Oh,
Or High Street.
High School.
no, the one that's blocked all the time?
Yeah, the one that's blocked up here.
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest, thank you. That culvert that comes under there and kind of pokes out, is there any effort to increase or protect it, or is it just kind of?
We won't be impacting or changing it at all. That wasn't part of the goal of this project. I do hear you about the kind of stormwater coming down.
Yeah, it does contribute to the erosion.
Yeah.
I mean, since day one, it's never worked.
So that water will then kind of come into your system and hopefully be slowed down by the subsequent.
Right, I mean, nothing up on Stowe Street will change or be impacted. And then, you know, where it's outletting onto the slope won't be changed either.
For the, I guess, for the flood models, did that account for the extra stormwater that does not go into the drains and will be pouring off into the pond, into that river?
Yeah, sorry. I don't see any increase coming down.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are all our
And then
concerns and
hours of
questions.
operation was the other question.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it going to be nighttime work or?
No, there won't be nighttime work. We have, I grabbed my bid documents.
Also for the armory, people that are living there, like you said, that would be.
The hours of operation that we 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So there would be no night work, there would be no night.
So I think Alex had a good point as far as coordination with traffic and such, because, I mean, when they were doing the bridge up there on Stowe Street, I mean, it is total gridlock in Waterbury sometimes, Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoons, and that's when they seem to choose to do, bringing in, you know, heavy beams and right up Main Street, and I mean, it was really crazy. So I just wondered, is there somebody that's going to be conducting some kind of coordination with them about that? I mean, especially in October in Waterbury, it's crazy.
I do think that if possible, if the truck traffic came down Armory Drive and took a right onto Union Street and made their way up the ramp towards the interstate or wherever they're going, it would be much better than going out Union Street and up Stowe Street. It would be much faster for whoever's delivering the product and
Totally true.
the trucks on Stowe Street.
The problem there is
Less wear and tear on the road.
that's a blind turn, so, you know, it's crazy.
And also the after-school traffic by the elementary school,
Yeah.
because so many parents pick up their children, so sometimes it's almost one lane right there to get
Yeah, you
through
wouldn't be able to get a truck through.
in the at like 2:45 or so. So that'd
Yeah,
be
that
tough
wouldn't
for
make any
trucks.
sense to go up Stowe.
It just seemed that when they're doing the bridge every weekend that was crazy, that's when they chose to do something, you know?
So if they took a right out of onto Union Street, but they had to, the fill was south, like, you know, would they then have to go around the road? And then you have all those
Well, I
trucks
guess it
going around
depends
the
on where they're
rotaries
going.
down Main Street.
Right.
I think,
Yes, you
I
can
think our
say.
kind of main concern is, you know, work with the town,
Coordination.
coordinate
Yeah.
with the town
Yeah.
and find a solution that doesn't. has
Yeah,
these
because
impacts.
there really wasn't any during that process, as far as I can see. I mean, Columbus Day weekend, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's when they're bringing most of their equipment in.
Well, we'll be done by October 1st.
Okay.
But yeah, with Alec and Bill, you know, they're involved in every, you know,
We could certainly voice
Everything.
our concerns to Alec and Bill about
Yeah.
Yeah,
direction.
and,
That's all.
and I've been working with Bill a lot, reminding him to send me things like road work updates or like heads up, everyone look out for this, for going out in like the news blasts and on social media and stuff like that. So I think I'm training them to do the communication thing a little bit better. And so, you know, it's got a ways to go. It's not perfect, but it's improving.
Yeah, well,
So,
think
and I
we're
can
all
stay on
aware.
them about any updates that the public would need to know for certain phases of the work or something.
yeah.
We might want to think about, you know, limiting, you know, talking to Bill about limiting during the school pickup times.
police direction.
Yeah, or the peak hours on Main Street. I mean, you've seen traffic backed up past the Winooski River.
Yes. So starting from like 4:30 to 6, it's kind of tough to get through town.
Right. I don't think the contractor would want to be going through that either.
Well, I didn't think the bridge contractor would either, but
Yeah, they only have one to go.
yeah.
Matt, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I had 4 questions, if I may. One question I had, so my name is Matt Moran. My wife and I are abutting landowners to the project on the south edge along a significant stretch, sort of the latter stretch of the project if when looking at the map. One thing we would like to do is be able to review the stream alteration permit from DEC. And do we have the permit number available for that?
Matt, you know, if on the DRB meeting page,
It is. Oh, super. Thank you.
I updated the application materials and added the stream authorization permit to that. It is, it is Exhibit K.
Exhibit K. Okay, thank you. Perfect.
You're very welcome.
Another question I have, and this perhaps is inaccurate. I haven't had time to read through all of the materials, so had AI do a bit of a summary for it. But it indicated that all of the materials seem to show a velocity increase along our property. As far as the stream velocity, it was showing a change from 5.2 feet per second to 7.1 feet per second. And if that's accurate, my concern is just whether or not there's been an analysis or consideration for both erosion of the stream bank along our property, but also just scouring that can happen and deepening of the channel. And also obviously loss of land would be a concern, but we also did a number of plantings both with the Waterbury Conservation Committee using funding from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we entered into an agreement with them and have a number of trees to try to better establish a riparian buffer along there. So just another concern with that. And then obviously the sewer line itself that we're trying to protect where it's getting exposed. Well, then that crosses over to our land that might be taking potentially more of a brunt of increase in velocity from some of these changes. And so one of my concerns is whether or not we might be shifting some of the impacts we're concerned about a little to the north and the river down to the south where the pipe is entering into our property, the sewer pipe that is.
Come on, Max.
I have one point of clarification.
Mr. Moran, how exactly did you conclude that the velocities would increase at your property? What is the evidence of that?
As I said, that was something that from having AI do an analysis of all the materials, it was saying that the materials indicated that it was a change from 5.2 feet per second to 7.1 feet per second. So as I said, that could be incorrect. So I'm just curious, particularly the person that put together these materials that testified early, he might be able to readily address that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So we've created a hydraulic river model of this stretch, and for our proposed design, it shows velocities decreasing across the project area because of the flood benching and the channel widening on the upstream side. I'm not sure where it would have been getting at. We did write a brief hydraulics memo that I'm not sure if that was part of materials. Cheryl,
I'll ask the model I was using to identify where they're pulling that information. Yeah, I apologize if that's inaccurate. Did you use a HEC-RAS model or similar model for looking at the changes that we could maybe anticipate from flood events for how the flood bench changes might change the distribution of flow across the floodplain?
Yes, we created a two-dimensional ECRAS model, and it doesn't show any increases in velocity or risk, to the neighboring parcels. I don't have that to show here, but we do have that.
Okay.
If that's
Great.
not entered into evidence, maybe we can enter it into evidence. It will then be listed on our site, sure.
Yep, and included in evidence is the email from the state river corridor and floodplain manager saying that velocities will not be increased.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask. I wasn't sure the model I was using was, or the AI that I was using was being accurate on that, because I'd heard you state that earlier, and I would have thought that the flood engineer would have taken a good look at that. The last question I have, and thank you for clarifying on that, is concerning the riprap filter berm, as well as I suppose to some extent the riffles that extend across the breadth of or width of the channel. And given in particular that the riprap filter berm, you stated that would in part be designed in a way to allow for some of the turbidity to settle out, and that would then be able to be removed, and I'm assuming approved within the stream alteration permit to have equipment come into the stream itself to haul some of that out. How is the equipment coming in to get that? Is that coming in from our property, or is it coming in from the armory side? Because right now there's not a road that would allow you to get to that point within the design of the project currently.
Yep, all equipment access is going to be from the armory side.
So is a road going to be extended down to where the riprap pre-filter berm is proposed?
So we show they'll come in kind of on the existing roads, and then they'll have to do. There's a fair bit of knotweed and other vegetation along the bank, especially all around that downstream corner. They'll have to clear, and then they'll be able to. Whether they use trucks or tracked trucks, they'll be able to move right along the top of the bank there, and that's where they're digging out some for the flood bench as well.
Okay, because I mean the road that comes down from the armory, it makes a bend above where that riprap filter berm is, but it's still quite a ways from the river itself there, and elevation-wise, it's quite a bit above it. So it sounds like, yeah, once they've kind of come in and pulled some material, I guess it might be easier to get into there. So one thing too is just there is a fair amount of, I don't know if this has been analyzed, but this stretch of the river has been, I mean, you pointed out some of the armoring in your design up by where the exposed concrete pipe is currently. But the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been in there before as well, along these stretches that extend down to where the filter berm is, as well as beyond that, including a lot of stone riprap that have been put in, as well as, I don't know if the right term would be, but they something like revetments, but they were more like wood type ones that extended out into the stream that you can kind of still see that were put in there for like fish habitat. What is the plan for avoiding, I guess, undoing the work done by the Army Corps through there?
I believe you're talking about work done on kind of the left bank if you're looking downstream on your side, the Stowe Street and your parcel. Is that right?
Correct. There's also riprap that you're probably going to get into on the other side, closer to the riprap pre-filter berm, but some of that's already getting sort of left high and dry because of the way the stream has changed over the years since that work was done by the Army Corps. But it is still in place on our side of the river and kind of functioning still. So I just wasn't sure how the riffles were being tied into that, and what sort of design considerations there might be, if any.
Right, so we don't plan on impacting any of that existing armoring, or as you mentioned, the wood features. The only work on that Stowe Street side is just tying in the riffle grade control structure. So just a short, 5 or so foot section where they tie into the bank, and it won't be changing anything that's already existing on the bank on that Stowe Street side.
Yeah. Okay. And this last question, I guess, that kind of as a result of some of this, the riffles themselves, just looking at the way they sort of would, and I'm not a stream engineer and don't pretend to know much about this. So, but given their design, they look like they would potentially deflect some of the stream flow laterally towards the banks a little bit. Is that correct?
So the way that they're designed, we have a detail that I think only I'm looking at, but their lowest point is actually in the center of the stream.
Okay.
And it's on the 8th sheet, almost the last.
Okay.
Yep, there down a little bit. Yep, that detail on the right.
Okay.
And so there's a couple different views of it here, but if you look at the kind of middle one, it's labeled section view, you can see that the middle part of the channel will be the lowest point, and then it'll actually rise up to tie into the banks on either side. And so flow will be primarily focused on the center of the channel there.
Okay. My wife is with me, and she had actually one other question. If I can indulge us for one last question. Looking at the design of the riprap filter berm, it's in the site plan. It probably is accurately showing that it extends across the water flow that there is currently there, but that it keeps going across what might be called, I guess, sort of a dry beach-like area, and goes all the way up to what's shown as a tree there. I don't know if that's we have a very large maple that's right there. And I will say that I'm just a little concerned where that's currently positioned, since there's a good amount of root systems from that tree, that you would presumably need a lot of heavy equipment going right up to very close to the base of that, as it's currently designed and shown.
Sure. So that riprap filter berm, it's pretty different than the riffle grade control structures. It's more of, they'll bring in loads of rock for it, and the excavator will just kind of place it across the channel, pile it, kind of as it's shown there on the screen. It's not dug in. It's not kind of trenched in. It's just, its purpose is just to kind of stretch across the active flow area. And so if it's showing it too far to the bank there, it will only be in the active channel flow, just because the goal is to, just with the normal flow day to day, for the water to have to kind of filter through the berm and for sediment to settle out in front of it. And so And in terms of putting it in, again, they'll be doing all of that work from the bank across from you. They won't be driving on your side of the river there at all.
Would you say your contractor will work to minimize any impact to any vegetation that's not on your out of the state's property?
Yeah.
So just given though, looking at the angle of that towards the river, so the purpose is in part is to, like, it sounds like, is to dam things up a little bit, build up a little pond area for settling. Is there any way that the angle could get changed just so that the end of the riprap filter berm is coming a little bit further to towards Stowe Street, just so that you're not having heavier rock put in place on the, because basically the root system, it's pretty shallow there because it's literally up on the bank a bit, and the river, as you can see, is scoured up closer to it. And so you're basically putting it on some of the root system itself. And then on top of that, obviously, if you are getting a lot of sediment settling and all of that, a lot of additional weight suddenly getting added within, within a month time frame or so, and then dug out again. It's just a lot of activity around that. I'm just wondering if that could be just slightly shifted.
Yeah, I think we could accommodate that.
And that might even shorten the reach a little bit, just looking at the angle of it. So it's not going to the tree, but a little bit more directly across towards, so that the end is a little closer to Stowe Street, if I'm being clear on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and certainly the goal with that is not to have any lasting impact on, adjacent banks or vegetation or anything.
Yep. No, really appreciate that. I mean, we have a lot of people in the sort of immediate area that use the paths that go along it and past that tree, from dog walkers to the school uses it almost daily for their trips down there as well. So that's much appreciated.
You have a good view of the construction there.
Yes, they will.
Any other questions, Kyle?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does the board have any other questions, concerns, comments?
I don't.
Good. Do we feel like we would like to go into a deliberative session? Or do we feel like we're ready to vote?
I'm ready to vote.
Any other? No? Right. Okay.
Is that without any sort of input on that, or with the concerns that were brought up? Is there, would it just be a yes or no?
Like, would you like anything added to the decision? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I didn't really hear, maybe altering the plan a little bit to work around some vegetation, but I didn't really hear anything from you guys.
And the relocation of the filter berm.
Yeah, moving the filter berm. Yeah, sorry.
I just want to be clear what we're voting on.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything that anybody wanted to add anything. It doesn't sound like we're looking for more information or anything.
Is the relocation of the filter berm one of the requirements or conditions that we want in the decision?
That was my understanding of what we've all agreed to do.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and what about like the trucks moving during certain times?
Well, that's part of coordination with
okay.
Public Works.
Okay.
I think we voiced our concerns.
They testified 7-7.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's the work itself. I was talking about the traffic of the trucks coming, bringing things or taking them away during certain hours.
it's going to be really hard for anybody to enforce.
Right.
I don't think we're in a position to enforce that.
That will be part of the coordination.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
But I think we
talk about-
voiced it.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Which we can certainly present that to Bill and Alec. Doesn't
Okay.
mean, which I'm sure they're aware of it, but it would hurt to say something.
I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to. Throw it out there.
Okay. Based upon these findings and subject to the conditions set forth below, the board concludes that proposed project by the Town of Waterbury Public Works stabilization of Thatcher Brook at 0 Armory Drive has presented an application number 023-26 and supporting materials meets the criteria set forth in section 602, 603A, 603D, 604, and 605 of the Waterbury zoning regulations of 2016. Good with that?
Any comments? Good.
On behalf of the Waterbury Development Review Board, I, David Rogers, move to approve application number 023-26 with the following requirements. The application shall complete the project in accordance with the board's findings and conclusions and approves plans and exhibits. And
And read that sentence.
thank you.
Wow, that's good.
And to readjust.
Readjustment of the filter berm to accommodate the local vegetation. Berm to positioning to accommodate the local vegetation, which basically would mean,
To approximately 30 foot to the south station.
yeah, so it would put it from
1 +
here
90.
to here, closer to the access road.
Yeah. Okay. Then
Because
that-
there is a gravel road going right to that point right now, so that's what this plan shows. And that would mean putting it closer to that.
So that's to the north. And if you want it there, it's at station 1 + 0.
Do we want to call it a specific spot?
Probably not.
Or probably say, you know, just.
Work it out with the
Yeah.
engineer and the property owner.
Visually seeing what's going on there.
So I have that requirement as reading readjustment of the filter berm positioning to accommodate local vegetation.
Yep, I agree with that. Because that can go in either direction, wherever they feel the best spot is, not to interrupt anything there.
I would second it.
Okay. There is a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous? Great. Thank you, congratulations, thanks everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Matt.
Sorry, the one thing I did forget to print was the actual agenda, but it's been a day.
It's okay.
It has been a serious day. But besides public comment, and I see no other members of the public here, the only other item of business for us is the approval of minutes from last time. And I do want to note that the review and approval of the DRB decisions down below, it just says a motion was made to approve. I do have in my notes back at my desk specifically
Great, thank
who
you.
made the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Who made the motion and who made the second, so I can insert those names specifically. I don't recall what they are offhand, but I have them written down.
Did they already change the sign to remove the private?
I think private is removed. I need to get Woody to put, there is a solution in the
It was really
works.
just like, I saw it and I was like, where's the private?
Yeah, I think he
I was
already
like, wow,
changed
that
the
was
sign.
crazy fast.
And there is like a full-fledged solution in the works, but I need to run a new road name by the select board. I need Woody to get that on the agenda. So.
would make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
As amended with, I'm going to put the names.
Okay.
Yep, that.
I'll second.
Is this really all we did last week? So,
I wasn't, you know, I realized I wasn't even here. Maybe I shouldn't move that. I didn't make it to that meeting.
Well, I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
as amended.
As amended. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Brooks seconds. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Abstained.
I can't.
So we have 4 approvals, 2 abstentions. More house.
Yeah, right.
Done with our business.
Yeah, just a few items of administration. For the approval of this decision, I realize they aren't starting work right away, so it might not be super time sensitive. There is no meeting on July 1st. We don't have any hearings that came in time for me to warn, and I won't drag you through any other administrative stuff because I'm going to be on vacation in Philly for the 250th 4th of July weekend, taking my dad, so it's going to be crazy. Why am I doing this? Yeah.
Ring that bell.
It was actually, the whole trip was actually a Christmas present to my parents, and my dad still wants to go. So Chad and I are taking him.
So did I hear no meeting in July? Is that what it is?
No meeting on the 1st. I will be warning a public hearing for July 15th. So I realize I did not print the agenda to put it in front of you, but next meeting is July 15th, 2026, 6:30 p.m. But for approving this, do we think we can wait that long to approve this decision, or do we want to do that approval of the decision at some point along the way? Because typically that's a whole separate vote that we usually do.
Yeah. I would, if Bill or Woody or the state feels like they need it sooner,
All right.
we could maybe send us an email, we
Yeah.
can try to figure it out, but
Okay.
if not,
Okay.
I would say.
I would also say, worst case scenario, we can either call a special meeting to change the date, or I think even Woody can handle walking you guys through a single vote on a decision if I set you up with the paperwork on the 1st. But I'd like to avoid having it.
Right, I think we can do it via email.
Yeah.
Right, and just,
Or approve it right now with
As amended?
amendments.
I mean, there were a few typos that I'll clean up.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to read through it and then just, I mean, everybody individually can say yes
Yea or nay.
via email,
Yeah.
right? That'll work, and then you can stop in and sign it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll clean it up, send a clean copy for everyone's review.
Okay.
They need to get the RFPs out, so.
Yeah.
That would be helpful for us.
Yeah,
Sounds
I like to.
they're already in the process. They have a
Right.
bidders meeting, so.
Right, but there's.
Yeah, I like to keep things moving
We should
as
hold up the
best
process
we
if we don't
can
need to.
on things, because there's always somebody who's waiting on us.
Before October, that would even be better.
Yeah, right.
I'm guessing like they're waiting for the river to go down as much as possible, is that the reasoning for?
Well, no, it's permitting timeframes, when they allow people to actually get in the river and do that kind of stuff, it's very limited. Yeah. That project is gonna start with a 1 before the 3.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, that's pretty.
I was like, I can't build a 2-bedroom house with that for 3
We do a couple of those a year in Stowe. That one's a bigger one. We've done 2 that were really big in Stowe with bench creation and rock revetment and everything that they're doing there. The one by Thompson Park was 1.2 million, and it was smaller than this one. And that was before COVID.
The trucking costs are phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a very large project.
Didn't that have an impact on your zoning changing a bit in those areas? as far as some of the conditions?
Well, we did implement fluvial erosion
Yeah.
overlay district tied into that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
The cost will be borne by FEMA, so keep paying your income taxes.
That's why I kind of questioned it.
Yeah.
All right, so that concludes any business, so unless anyone else has any.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank
Thank you, Cheryl.
Recording is stopped.
Recording stopped.